The wind cut across the dry Kansas field like a blade, carrying with it the scent of rusted wire and scorched earth. The grass was brittle underfoot, a golden sea of silence stretching far beyond the horizon. In the middle of it all, a lone German shepherd, muscular, alert, and unmistakably trained, moved with purpose. His name was Kron, a retired K9 whose instincts refused to rest. Kron wasn't playing. He was digging again, not like a normal dog, but with a precision that was unsettling. Every morning for the past week, he had led Dr. Orion Vexley, a biotechnologist turned field researcher, to this exact stretch of soil. Always the same spot, always with the same outcome. Kron unearthing something that looked like a stone but felt like a warning. Today's object was larger, covered in dried soil, oval-shaped, and dense. Orion crouched beside the dog, the hiss of his biohazard suit brushing against the air as he reached down to collect the stone with gloved hands. The surface was oddly smooth, and beneath the crust, faint traces of organic material shimmered like veins. He didn't say a word. Kron just stared at him, panting, but still tense, like he was waiting for something, or someone. Back at the mobile lab, hastily set up inside an old trailer surrounded by flat nothingness, Orion laid the stone onto a metal tray. He had already cataloged 6 of these in the past week. Each one contained what appeared to be biological remnants, bone fragments, collagen strands, even signs of tissue preservation. At first, he thought it was contamination, but now he wasn't so sure. These weren't just fossils. They were sealed capsules. Orion adjusted his goggles and ran a scanner over the surface. The readings spiked again. High concentrations of strontium, iron, and unidentified carbon structures. The same pattern, the same warning signs. His heart beat faster than he wanted to admit. He was a scientist, trained to observe, not feel. But something about these stones made him uneasy in a way he couldn't explain. As Kron stood by the lab entrance, ears perked and body tense, Orion finally said aloud what he hadn't dared voice all week. "What the hell are you trying to show me, Kron?" He didn't expect an answer, but as he reached to place the latest stone under the containment laser, the device flickered, then stopped. The lab lights dimmed for half a second, and at that precise moment, the scanner finally cracked the outer layer. The internal image appeared on screen, and what was inside didn't look human. Dr. Orion Vexley stared at the monitor, his breath caught in his throat. The internal scan was rendering slowly, pixel by pixel, but already he could see the impossible. Thin, thread-like structures curled around what appeared to be a metallic object embedded inside the organic matter. Not bone, not rock, something entirely different, something constructed. He took a step back, chest rising and falling inside the confines of his hazmat suit. His gloved hand reached for the intercom. "Julian," he said sharply, "I need you in lab 2. Now." Within minutes, Dr. Julian Ramirez, his longtime lab partner, rushed in, confusion written across his face. Orion didn't explain. He simply pointed to the monitor. Julian narrowed his eyes. "That's not natural. Is that a chip?" "No," Orion replied. "At least not like anything I've ever seen. The outer shell appears biological, but what's inside, it's engineered." He paused. This wasn't formed. It was implanted. Outside the lab, Kron paced back and forth, his nose lifted to the wind, tail stiff. The dog was uneasy, restless, behaving less like a retired K9 and more like an active-duty sentinel guarding something sacred. Orion glanced at him through the reinforced glass. "He's been leading me to these things like he remembers something. But how can a dog know where to dig? Why only here?" Julian leaned closer to the monitor. "You said this field was a former military training site, right?" Orion nodded. "Abandoned for decades, but I've worked in dozens of decommissioned sites. I've never found anything like this." Julian hesitated, then spoke softly. "Maybe it's not just abandoned. Maybe it was buried for a reason." Those words hung in the air like smoke. Orion turned back to the stone on the tray, its cracked surface now revealing slivers of shiny material glinting beneath the lab lights. He reached for a microscalpel and gently began to extract a fragment. As the blade touched the core, the room temperature dropped 2 degrees. The lights flickered again. Then, as if timed, Kron let out a sharp, guttural bark. Orion froze. The monitor flashed red. The internal data from the fragment spiked in radiation. A soft whine came from the machines. And then one single word appeared on the screen. Active. He stared at it in disbelief. Julian stepped back. Orion. What the hell did we just wake up? The word active burned on the monitor like a silent siren. Julian stood frozen, jaw clenched, eyes flicking between the screen and the cracked stone. Orion reached forward and tapped the panel, trying to reset the system, but the screen wouldn't respond. Instead, a low-frequency hum began to resonate from the stone's core. A sound so deep it could barely be heard, but it made the lab floor vibrate beneath their boots. Outside the lab window, Kron sat perfectly still. His ears were upright, body frozen, eyes locked on the building as if he felt the vibration through the air itself. It was more than instinct. He was remembering something. Something buried not just in the field, but in his past. "Turn it off," Julian said sharply. "I can't," Orion muttered. "It's not connected to our systems anymore. The signal, it's internal." He turned toward a side console, activated the shielding system, and slammed a containment dome over the stone fragment. The hum immediately softened but didn't stop. That's when Orion remembered something from 6 years ago. A name, a report, a rumor. Dr. Abel Creed, a colleague once obsessed with biomechanical integration. He had vanished without a trace during a classified experiment involving deep earth materials. Some of them reportedly recovered from this very region. Officially, he was declared dead, but Orion had always suspected otherwise. And now, looking at this fragment pulsing on his lab table, he felt a chill crawl up his spine. He pulled out an old encrypted drive from the desk drawer, something he hadn't opened in years. It was a gift or a warning left behind by Abel just weeks before his disappearance. The file was labeled Echo_7X. Orion plugged it in. A loading bar filled slowly. Then a video feed opened. Blurry, distorted, but recognizable. Abel Creed, wide-eyed, speaking into the camera, breathless. "If you're seeing this, it means you found one. They're not fossils. They're keys. Each one is a lock, a memory. And if they're waking up, it's already too late." Julian took a step back. Keys to what? Orion didn't answer, because deep down he already knew. Outside, Kron growled low, his gaze now fixed not on the lab, but on the field beyond it. The wind had changed. The sky was darker, and far in the distance, something shimmered beneath the tall grass. A shape, half buried. Another stone. No, not just a stone. A door. Kron stood like a statue, his body pointed toward the field beyond the lab, where the tall grass rippled in waves, disturbed by something unseen. Orion followed the dog's gaze, stepping out into the wind. The hum from the stone still vibrated faintly through the soil, as if the earth itself were responding. Kron didn't bark this time. He simply began to walk, slow, deliberate, as though retracing a path long forgotten. Julian grabbed a field kit and jogged after them, tension tight in his chest. They walked nearly half a mile before Kron stopped. His nose hovered above the dirt, tail low, body alert. There was nothing visible, just weeds and cracked ground. But Orion felt something different beneath his boots, a slight hollow. He knelt down and brushed aside the dry grass. And there it was, metal, a corroded, rectangular hatch almost completely hidden by time. For feet wide, sealed shut with rusted bolts. No markings, no symbols, just age and silence. Orion exchanged a look with Julian. Neither of them said it, but both felt it. This was the real secret. "We need equipment," Julian said. "No," Orion replied, already pulling a crowbar from his pack. "If we wait, we risk someone intercepting the signal. Whatever's down there, It's been waiting long enough. The metal groaned as he forced the hatch open. The smell hit them instantly. Stale air, damp metal, and something else. Something faintly sweet and rotten. A long-forgotten stairwell descended into darkness, disappearing into the earth like the throat of a buried giant. Kron stood at the edge, ears flat, a low whine escaping his throat. Orion switched on his headlamp. "I'll go first," he said, stepping onto the first metal step, which creaked under his weight. Julian followed reluctantly, one hand gripping the flashlight, the other wrapped tight around the strap of his satchel. The deeper they went, the colder it became. The hum returned, faint, yet constant, like a heartbeat beneath the soil. Then they reached the bottom. A hallway stretched before them, lined with concrete walls and flickering emergency lights, still functional after decades. The air smelled of chemicals and dust. Along the left wall, faint writing could be seen. Unit 4 Memory Containment Wing. Julian's voice was barely a whisper. "This is a government facility." Orion nodded slowly. "No, this is what's left of one." Kron growled behind them, and from the darkness ahead, a single metal door hissed open by itself. The metal door groaned as it slid fully open, revealing a narrow corridor drenched in cold, flickering light. The air that poured out was frigid, laced with the sterile bite of chemicals and something older, like time itself had been trapped and left to rot. Kron hesitated, his ears pinned back, but moved forward after Orion with a low, wary growl in his throat. The hallway felt untouched, like no one had been there in decades, and yet everything was intact. On the walls, yellowed panels displayed cryptic designations: cognitive isolation, biofeedback stabilization, mnemonic archives. The deeper they went, the more it resembled a hybrid between a research lab and a bunker designed to withstand the apocalypse. Julian kept glancing behind them, half expecting the door to slam shut. "This place wasn't meant to be found," he whispered. Orion stopped in front of a large observation window, its glass smeared with age but still transparent. Inside was a small chamber, dimly lit, with a reclining chair, dozens of neural cables, and what looked like a humanoid skeleton, still strapped in place. The skull was partially covered in a metallic shell, fused to the bone like armor or a processor. "That's not just science," Julian said, stepping back. "That's experimentation." Orion didn't reply. He was staring at the plaque bolted beneath the glass. It read, "Subject 09 Creed, Abel M." Time froze. Julian's eyes widened. "That's not possible. Creed disappeared over 6 years ago." "No," Orion said softly, eyes fixed on the skeletal figure. "He was buried down here, with his project." Kron began to whine, pacing near the door to the chamber. Orion moved quickly to a terminal beside the glass and brushed away the dust. The screen lit up. To his surprise, the system still functioned. Lines of data scrolled across the display, brainwave logs, memory indexes, and something labeled echo loop sequences. He clicked into it. A video file appeared, time-stamped 11 days before Creed's disappearance. The screen buzzed to life with Creed's face, older, thinner, terrified. "They said we could store memories inside synthetic biocores. But we didn't just copy them," he whispered. "We trapped them. The minds, they're still active, still aware, and they're calling out." Julian took a step back. Calling out to what? Suddenly, the lights in the hallway dimmed again. A slow, rhythmic pulse echoed through the walls, almost like breathing. And then, through the speaker, Creed's voice returned, distorted but clear. "You brought one back, didn't you?" The speaker crackled, and Creed's distorted voice lingered in the air like smoke. "You brought one back, didn't you?" Julian's breath caught in his chest, and Orion's fingers hovered above the terminal, frozen. There was no protocol for this, no training for it. What they were witnessing wasn't just a remnant of a past experiment. It was communication from something that should no longer exist. Kron's ears snapped back as he growled at the chamber door. The temperature had dropped further, almost unbearably cold now. Frost formed around the metal seams. Inside the observation room, the skeleton of Dr. Abel Creed trembled ever so slightly. Not a shift of gravity. Not vibration. A twitch. Julian stumbled back, shaking his head. No, that's impossible. He's dead, Orion. That's a dead man. Orion leaned forward, voice barely audible. Not if his consciousness was trapped. If what he said is true and those biocores stored living thought patterns, then we didn't just awaken data. He turned toward the dog. Kron didn't just find a rock, he found a memory. A live one. Suddenly, the lab's backup systems kicked in with a low hum. The lights flickered, and a mechanical hiss echoed through the hallway. A nearby door, marked Core Repository Level 1, unlocked with a heavy click. Kron barked once, sharply, and bolted down the corridor. Orion and Julian followed, hearts pounding. The room beyond was larger than expected. Cold metal walls, rows of containment units, each holding stones similar to the ones Kron had uncovered. Dozens of them, some cracked open, others still intact. On the far wall, a display screen lit up as they entered. It showed live readings from each unit. 5 of them pulsed red. Active signals, Julian whispered. 5 cores are awake. Orion stepped closer to the nearest one. The readout said, Subject 04 Vega. Then another, Subject 06 Marrow. Each name sounded more alien than the last. They weren't just scientists or soldiers. These were something else. Entities. Suddenly, the overhead speaker clicked on again. But this time, it wasn't Creed's voice. It was many voices, layered, whispering over one another, repeating the same phrase over and over. We remember the dirt. We remember the dark. Kron growled, hair rising along his spine. And at the center of the room, one of the cores began to open on its own. The core chamber vibrated with a low, guttural hum as the containment unit in the center slowly opened. Cold mist poured out from the seals, cascading to the floor like smoke. Kron backed away, barking loudly now, his voice echoing off the steel walls. Orion stepped forward, heart pounding, eyes locked on the opening shell. Inside the core was something halfway between organic and mechanical. A fleshy mass covered in dark, calcified plating, pulsing faintly with a dim blue light. It moved, slowly, like it was breathing. Attached to its side was a fragment of a dog tag, partially rusted. Orion squinted through the mist. The letters read, Vega. Julian clutched Orion's arm. That's not just a memory. That's a person. No, Orion whispered. That's a mind. Disembodied, repurposed, but aware. He turned to Julian. We didn't wake up files. We woke up identities. The people they once were. Their thoughts, their pain. His voice broke slightly. They never died, Julian. They were trapped in these cores, buried alive in silence. Suddenly, the chamber lights flickered again, and the whispering voices returned. Louder now, clearer, each speaking over the other in chaotic fragments. They left us. They sealed us. We were never gone. One voice rose above the rest, calm, cold, and unmistakably human. It was Abel Creed again. Vexley, you have to shut them down, before they remember too much. The ground beneath their feet vibrated again. Several other cores lit up, Marrow, Unit 12, Wells, all blinking red. Kron barked furiously, then lunged toward the exit. Orion didn't hesitate. We have to go, he shouted, grabbing Julian by the shoulder. Now! But Julian didn't move. His eyes were fixed on one of the sealed cores, his face pale. Orion, he said slowly, voice trembling. That one, that name, I know it. Orion turned. The label on the nearest sealed core read, Subject 17 Whitmore, Linda. Everything stopped. Orion's breath caught. The air in the room seemed to vanish. Linda, his wife, dead for 6 years, gone. And yet her name glowed red on a still active core, one that was pulsing, reactivating. Orion stumbled backward, lips parted. No, that's not possible. But it was. and the whispering voices grew louder now, all converging into one. "We are not gone. We are waiting." Orion stood frozen, staring at the glowing name on the core. Subject 17 Whitmore, Linda. His chest tightened. The world narrowed. Every sound, every hum, every flicker of light became muffled, distant. Linda's name wasn't just a memory. It was alive inside that core, active, processing, waiting. Kron let out a low whimper, sensing the shift in his handler's energy. Julian stepped forward, his voice barely a whisper. "You told me she died in a car accident 6 years ago." "She did," Orion replied, his voice hollow. "That's what they told me. That's what I believed." His knees almost buckled. "She was working on memory compression projects at the Institute before she died. But I never saw the body. There was a closed casket." He stared at the pulsing red core. "Now I know why." The terminal beside the core suddenly came to life. Text scrolled rapidly across the screen. A system query was executing. Memory link request. Vexley Orion. Orion's hand hovered above the interface. His mind screamed for logic, for caution, but his heart pulled him forward. He pressed accept. The lights dimmed, the hum deepened, and then her voice, soft, fractured, familiar. "Orion? Is that you?" Tears welled in his eyes. "Linda, it's me." There was a pause. Then, "I'm still here. I've been trying to reach you. I've been awake for so long." His knees hit the floor. "Why? Why did they do this to you?" Linda's voice cracked, like a broken radio signal full of pain. "They said it was for science, for preservation. I was supposed to be a prototype, but I never stopped thinking, never stopped feeling. I remember everything." Behind him, Julian's expression shifted from shock to horror. "Orion, we need to end this. She's not alive. Not in the way you remember." But Orion shook his head. "She remembers me. She remembers us." He looked back at the terminal. "Linda, can I bring you back? Can I help you escape?" The lights in the chamber flickered violently. More cores lit up, active, blinking one by one. Linda's voice returned, lower now. "No, it's too late for me, but you need to leave. Now, they're waking up. All of them, and they remember the pain." Suddenly, the screen flashed red. A warning. Security protocol. Core-wide sync. 87% complete. Kron barked sharply and bolted toward the exit. Tail down, body stiff. Julian grabbed Orion. "We have to run. Now." But Orion stayed frozen, one hand still on the glass of the core. Linda whispered one final time, "Don't let them make more of us." Alarms blared overhead as the chamber bathed itself in red warning lights. The display now read, "Core-wide sync, 93% complete." Each containment unit was pulsing like a heartbeat. Dozens of them, all flickering in unison. The walls vibrated, and the air grew thick with pressure, as if the underground facility itself was holding its breath. Kron barked furiously at the exit, snapping Orion out of his daze. Julian grabbed him by the collar of his hazmat suit. "Orion, we have to go. If the sync completes, we're not just talking about one consciousness, we're talking about a network. A hive. Think of what that means." But Orion didn't move. His eyes were locked on Linda's core, still glowing, still reaching for him in the dark. "I can't leave her here," he said, voice shaking. "She's still inside. She's still her." Julian snapped. "She warned you herself. You have to listen to her. You think this is love, Orion? This is grief, weaponized by something that should never have existed." He gestured around them. "This isn't about saving one person anymore. This is about stopping them all." A mechanical hiss echoed through the chamber. One of the cores opened fully. A blackened humanoid figure slumped forward, wires and tissue fused together, its chest rising with unnatural rhythm. His head slowly turned toward them. Eyes, once human, glowed faintly with a pale blue light. Kron growled and moved between them and the figure. Orion stared at it, breath caught. "Is that Vega. Julian didn't wait. He pulled a detonator device from his pack. I brought this in case we found biohazardous material. We blow the tunnel. We trap the sink before it completes. He handed it to Orion. You know this ends here. Orion's hands trembled. He looked at the button, then at Linda's core. Her voice whispered again through the terminal. Faint, cracking. Let me go, please. The countdown on the screen climbed 96%, 97%. Julian stood at the ready. You have to choose. Orion took one last look at the glass panel where his wife's name pulsed red and felt something inside him fracture. Grief, guilt, and love folding into one unbearable decision. He pressed the button. The ground shook violently. Dust and sparks rained from the ceiling as explosions rippled through the corridor behind them. Kron barked and ran. Julian grabbed Orion, and together they sprinted for the surface tunnel, the cores now screaming in mechanical rage behind them. The last thing Orion heard before the lab collapsed was Linda's voice, peaceful, fading into silence. Thank you. The blast was deafening. Dirt and smoke erupted into the sky as the underground facility collapsed in on itself. The ground rumbled for what felt like minutes, sending birds scattering into the pale morning light. And then silence. Only the sound of wind brushing through the dry Kansas grass remained. The field looked empty again, just another forgotten patch of earth. Orion lay flat on the ground, gasping, his ears ringing. Beside him, Kron whined softly and nudged his shoulder. Julian coughed and rolled onto his back, covered in dust and sweat, staring up at the gray sky. They had made it out barely. They sat in silence for a long time. Eventually, Orion rose to his knees, eyes scanning the field. There was no sign of the lab entrance now, just scorched soil and twisted metal poking through the earth. He held the detonator tightly in his hand, unable to let go. Kron sat beside him, quiet, head lowered. Julian finally spoke. We stopped it. The sink. It's gone. Orion nodded, but didn't respond. Inside, he felt hollow, like something sacred had been lost and freed at the same time. He had heard Linda's voice, not just in the lab, but in his soul. And when she asked to be let go, he knew it wasn't just for her. It was for all of them, for the minds that had been trapped, for the pain that had been preserved, for the science that had crossed a line too far. Weeks later, the area was quietly sealed by government officials. No headlines, no public records, just another environmental incident. Orion submitted his final report and never returned to the site. Julian left the research field entirely. He moved to the coast, opened a bookstore, and refused to speak of the cores again. But Orion couldn't let it go completely. He kept a single piece of twisted core casing in a locked drawer at home. A reminder, not of technology, but of choice. And every night, when he walked Kron beneath the stars, he'd stop in the stillness of the dark and whisper, "Good night, Linda." Not to a ghost, not to a machine, but to a memory that had finally been set free. And somewhere, in the silence between the wind and the dirt, felt like she whispered back,